The wedding hall went dead silent when a young woman in a wheelchair was shoved out into the cold by her own father, CEO Richard Turner, just minutes before she was supposed to walk down the aisle. She was 8 months pregnant, trembling, with nowhere to go. And that's when a man in a faded janitor's uniform stepped out of the shadows and offered her his coat. Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more videos like this. Let's begin. The wind cut like knives through the alley behind Westbridge Hall, carrying with it the muffled laughter and clinking glasses from inside. Emma Turner's hands shook as she gripped the armrest of her wheelchair, the glossy bouquet she had been holding moments ago now crushed in her lap. Her father's last words still rang in her ears. Cold, sharp, final. You've embarrassed this family enough. Marrying you was already a mistake. Now I'm correcting it. He didn't even look back as he closed the glass doors, his tailored suit catching the light while she sat there, gasping in disbelief. The man who had once told her she was his princess had just exiled her in front of an audience. A deep voice broke through her spiraling thoughts. You're freezing. She looked up. Standing in the dim glow of the service entrance light was a tall man, maybe mid-30s, with work-worn hands and eyes that spoke of long days and longer nights. His janitor's ID badge read Daniel Hayes. Emma swallowed. I'm fine. Daniel glanced at her thin satin dress, at the goosebumps along her arms. You're not fine. Before she could protest, he slid off his heavy work coat and draped it over her shoulders. It smelled faintly of soap and pine cleaner, warm in a way she didn't know she needed. Why are you out here? He asked, his voice low but steady. Emma's throat tightened. Because my father decided I wasn't worth keeping inside. Daniel's jaw clenched, but he didn't push for details. Instead, he crouched so they were eye level. I'm clocked out in 10. Let me get you somewhere warm. Her eyes welled. No one had offered her kindness since she got pregnant. She nodded, almost afraid the movement would shatter the fragile moment. Inside, the laughter grew louder. Out here in the cold, a janitor she'd never met was looking at her like she mattered. And for the first time that night, Emma felt a flicker of safety. Daniel pushed her wheelchair away from the glowing glass doors, the crunch of gravel under his boots echoing in the still night. Emma kept her head down, every sound from inside the hall stabbing at her chest. A reminder that her family was toasting champagne while she sat in a borrowed coat, carrying a child they'd already decided didn't belong. They reached the back parking lot. Only a few cars sat under the flickering lampposts. Daniel stopped beside an old blue pickup truck, its paint faded and the passenger door dented. He opened it with a careful tug, like he was afraid of startling her. Step 1, get you warm. Step 2, figure out the rest, he said, his voice carrying a calm steadiness that she desperately clung to. Emma's pride pricked at her. You don't even know me. Why would you help? Daniel met her gaze with a kind of sincerity that made lying impossible. Because I've been where you are, cold, alone, wondering why the people who should have had my back didn't. The words landed heavy. He didn't push her to explain, and she didn't press him either. She just nodded. He helped her into the truck, lifting her with surprising gentleness, careful not to jostle her stomach. His hands were warm, calloused from years of work, but his touch was steady, almost protective. Inside, the heater groaned to life, pushing out waves of blessed warmth. Emma tucked her fingers into the oversized sleeves of his coat. As Daniel started the truck, she glanced out the window and caught a glimpse of her father through the glass doors, smiling for photos, his arm around her ex-fiancé. Her stomach twisted. Daniel noticed. Want me to drive a little faster? She gave a short, broken laugh. Please. The truck rumbled onto the road, leaving the glittering hall behind. With each passing mile, the noise and cruelty of that place faded into the dark, replaced by the low hum of the engine and the steady rhythm of Daniel's breathing beside her. Somewhere between the shadows of the streetlights, she realized. She had no idea where they were going. But for the first time in months, she didn't feel scared. The truck's headlights carved through the quiet streets until they turned onto a narrow road lined with old maple trees. At the end sat a small, weathered duplex, its porch light flickering like it was trying to decide whether to stay alive. Daniel pulled into the cracked driveway and cut the engine. "This is me," he said simply, climbing out and circling to her side. Emma hesitated. "You live here?" Daniel smirked faintly. "Don't let the chipped paint fool you. It's warmer than it looks." He opened her door, carefully lifting her again. His arms were strong, but not forceful. The kind of hold that said he was paying attention to every movement she made. Inside, the space was modest. Worn couch, mismatched curtains, a small table stacked with unopened mail. But clean. A faint scent of lemon cleaner and coffee lingered in the air. Daniel set her down gently on the couch and disappeared into the kitchen. A minute later, he returned with a steaming mug. "Chamomile. Helps when you can't sleep." Emma wrapped her hands around it, letting the heat seep into her fingers. "You didn't have to." "I know." He cut in, sitting across from her. "But you looked like you needed someone to." For a moment, silence settled between them, broken only by the faint ticking of the wall clock. Emma's voice cracked when she finally spoke. "They didn't even look back, Daniel. My own father, the man who told me he'd protect me forever, turned his back like I was nothing." Daniel leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Emma, you're not nothing. And maybe tonight just proved that their approval isn't worth bleeding for." Her eyes burned. No one had said anything like that to her in months. Not her so-called friends. Not even the man who had sworn to love her before walking away. She took a sip of the tea, the warmth steadying her. "Why do you care so much?" He gave a small, tired smile. "Because I've seen too many people broken by people who were supposed to love them. I'm not letting that happen to you. Not while you're here." Something in her chest shifted. A small, stubborn piece of hope she thought had died. And as she sat there in his too big coat, in a stranger's living room that already felt safer than her own home, she realized she wasn't just warming her hands on the tea. She was warming her heart on his words. It was just past midnight when the quiet inside Daniel's duplex shattered. 3 hard knocks rattled the front door, sharp, impatient, the kind that belonged to someone who expected obedience. Daniel's jaw tightened as he set down the dish he'd been washing. "Stay here," he murmured to Emma, already moving toward the entryway. She gripped the arm of the couch. "Daniel." But the door swung open before he even reached for the knob. Her father stepped inside, the tailored lines of his suit still perfect despite the hour, flanked by 2 broad-shouldered men in black coats. His eyes swept the small living room with thinly veiled disgust before landing on her. "Emma, get your things." His tone was as flat as glass. She froze. "I don't have things to get. You threw me out." Richard Turner's nostrils flared. "You're coming home. This situation." He glanced at Daniel like he was something tracked in from the street. "Is unacceptable." Daniel stepped forward, his voice calm but edged with steel. "She's not going anywhere she doesn't want to." Her father's lips curved into a cold smile. "And who are you? The janitor?" Daniel didn't blink. Yeah, the janitor who's making sure your daughter isn't left in a freezing alley to fend for herself. One of the bodyguards moved forward, but Richard raised a hand, his eyes locked on Emma. You think this man can take care of you? He can't even afford a decent car, let alone. Emma's voice cut through, sharper than she'd meant. He's already taken better care of me in one night than you have in months. The room went still. Her father's face hardened, but for a flicker of a second, there was something else. Shock, maybe even hurt. It passed quickly. You'll regret this, he said, turning on his heel. Both of you will. The door slammed, leaving the air heavy. Daniel turned back to her, his eyes searching hers. You okay? She swallowed hard. Number, but I will be. And for the first time since the night began, she meant it. 2 days later, Daniel's world tilted. He was halfway through mopping the west wing of the hospital when his supervisor, Mr. Crowley, strode in with a tight jaw and a folded letter in his hand. Hayes, you need to come to my office. Emma, sitting in the hallway for her prenatal checkup, caught the look in Daniel's eyes as he passed. Something sharp, guarded. She wheeled herself after him, ignoring the ache in her back. Inside the cramped office, Crowley shut the door. I got a call this morning from Richard Turner. Emma's stomach dropped. Crowley continued. Said you were unfit to work here. Said you were inappropriate with his daughter. Threatened to pull the hospital's funding if we didn't let you go. Daniel's grip on the back of the chair tightened until his knuckles whitened. So that's it? He says it, and you believe it? Crowley looked uneasy. It's not about believing. It's about the hospital surviving. Emma rolled forward, fire in her voice. You can't fire him over a lie. My father's trying to punish me, not Daniel. You'll be playing right into it. Crowley hesitated, but his eyes said the decision was already made. I'm sorry. Hand in your badge by the end of the day. The silence after those words was deafening. Outside in the corridor, Daniel walked like he was carrying 100 pounds on his shoulders. Emma caught his hand. I'm not letting him destroy you because of me. He shook his head. Emma, I'm not the one 8 months pregnant with nowhere to go. You are my priority, not a job. She stared at him. This man who had no reason to help her, who had just lost his only income because he refused to let her face the world alone. And something inside her hardened. Then we fight, she said. Daniel's brow furrowed. Against a man who owns half the city? Emma's lips curled into a determined smile. Against my father. And I know exactly where to start. Because what her father didn't know, what no one knew, was that Emma still had one thing he couldn't buy or bury. A secret that could burn his empire to the ground.